Hello everyone, welcome to another amazing day at fmtraining.tv. My name is Margaret. I'll be your broadcast engineer for today. I am here today with Mr. Calvin, our wonderful, wonderful Mr. Calvin, who is going to please show his video temporarily so we can see his lovely face. There you go.
Good afternoon.
Calvin is here with us to discuss AutoComplete in FileMaker, which will be defining relationships using AutoComplete in FileMaker. Which actually sounds really cool, so I'm excited to see where we go with that. That'll be really fun today. Good to see everyone here. Good to have you all here. We just finished up our certification training day 2. So seriously, it's not too late to join in. If you're like, well, maybe I should try to join to get certified, but highly recommend it. It is awesome. It helps a lot. I promise it's going to help a lot. We basically have broken down the Claris study guide and then added all of our tips and tricks and how you want to get over those humps in the certification test, because it is really no joke when 62% is your passing grade. It tells you it's not easy by any remote or means. Real quick reminder, we stream on 3 platforms. We stream on Discord, we stream on YouTube, I stream on Twitch. I watch all of these religiously. As a broadcast engineer, I'm here to catch all of your questions. Sometimes we run out of time at the end. We don't catch questions, but that's really rare. That doesn't happen very often. I see all of them. I watch all of them. I talk to all you guys. Please ask questions. Please interact. It's part of the reason we do this. It's to improve the FileMaker community and give back to the community and interact with you guys. So, hello, talk to us. Real quick, we're going to discuss the live stream training schedule. Okay, so today we have Calvin, Wednesday we have Calvin, and Thursday we have Calvin. Calvin, I am sorry, it's going to be a long week for you. But Wednesday and Thursday actually be pretty fun. They're kind of simple, basic days, but I mean, who doesn't need a recap of things every once in a while? I've also seen the script trigger file for tomorrow, and that's very cool. It already looks really cool. Seeing how that works is really cool. I'm excited. Script trigger overview in FileMaker, merge fields overview in FileMaker. That'll be fun. Friday is going to be an open FileMaker server Q&A with our favorite FileMaker server man, Jacob Taylor. And then Monday is going to be stupid but essential beep noises in FileMaker. You wouldn't think that would have gotten more complicated, but actually it has. When you need customized audio sounds for your FileMaker file, you have to actually kind of hack around it now. So we're going to discuss that. And then Tuesday isn't showing for some reason, but Tuesday is the return of Nick to discuss FMSP, the beta release, because we got to the end of yesterday, 20 minutes over, and there was still stuff to talk about. Shock. So Nick is going to come back for that. And Wednesday is going to be Monkey Bread functions for FileMaker Windows. People always like, what about the stuff that works for Windows, for Monkey Bread? We're going to talk about that explicitly on Wednesday, so that'll be fun for all of you Windows people. Or for people who have customers who have Windows, of which there are probably many of you. Macs are too expensive for most major corporations. And then a real quick reminder, this is currently ongoing, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. The certification training, the special high-intensity training for FileMaker certification. Don't think about that acronym too closely. We're on day 2 currently, or we just finished day 2. Day 3, 4, and 5 are tomorrow. These are all recorded, so you will so even if you buy it after the fact, you can come back and watch it and get all of our PDFs and all of the recordings for you to go back and look through it and watch it and interact with it. Basically, we're discussing how to pass certification tests. Calvin has gone through it. It's difficult. It's also expensive to keep retaking, and if you keep failing, it's about $150 a pop. We're basically breaking down how to study for it, how to get you to answer those questions, what you need to memorize to get over those last couple question humps. The test is, even in the study guide, they kind of show up little questions that show you that they are going to ask about little obscure things that you've never used in your FileMaker development life. If you want to know what those are, come join our certification. You need to buy our complete bundle, the complete bundle. You can upgrade to the complete bundle if you'd like. I can find the link for that for you all real quick for those of you who haven't. But get that bundle and you can join us live if you want, or you can watch the recordings later when we're done with them. Either way, it'll be awesome. Please feel free to do that. So, I think that has covered pretty much everything. Are we good, Calvin? I feel like we're good.
I'm good to go. If
Cool.
You're ready, I'm ready.
I feel like I am ready to go. Cool. We're gonna make you full screen. Ta-da!
Okay. So I'm pretty excited about today's demo this kind of is a follow-up to the demo I had a while back where I was using tab and keyboard shortcuts to keep your hands on the keyboard as much as possible in the FileMaker app. I have a client that likes to keep her hands on the keyboard and not have to use her mouse for navigation. And so this is kind of a second part to that. How are we able to relate records without using the mouse? So let's go ahead and take a look. I'm going to share my screen. And you should see my desktop. And I'm going to open up FM Starting Point. And this is a copy of FM Starting Point. I just downloaded it. And if you look at FM Starting Point, I'm going to create a new estimate. And we've got all these fields here. And this is going to look amazing and wonderful in Nick Hunter's new version of this. But we're allowed to type into these fields. So we can say company ABC and maybe John Doe. And when we set up and when we type that in, all we're doing is putting text in a text field. It's not establishing a relationship at all. And so if I click on these buttons, nothing happens. You'll see that they're not highlighted. If I do, to get that relationship set up, we have to use this click on the search button, search in the name that we want. Let's say we'll select Ryan. I'll select Ryan. Now Ryan's in there. Now there's that connection between those two records. And so we had to click it on a button. We had to click into a search. We showed this again. I guess the search is already there. We can type in Ryan, and I don't think we can tab to select Ryan. We have to click on Ryan again. So that's 2, maybe 3 clicks, depending on how quickly you see that person in there. So how can we get around this and allow just type the name in to this field and get it to establish that relationship? And I've had several people that didn't like to use the mouse to click on these buttons, and so this solution that I'm going to show you is how we got around that. And I really don't like the title of today's thing. It says I think, what was the title, Margaret?
The title was basically, let me look at the exact one, defining relationships using autocomplete in FileMaker.
Okay, so I don't really like the title because we're not actually defining a relationship. We're setting up the relationship. But setting up relationship using autocomplete, maybe that's a better title. If you have a better title, if you think of something, you can type it in the chat and let us know. But instead of defining, because we're not defining it, that makes me think of database definitions in the relationship graph. We're setting up the relationship using autocomplete. So let's go to my demo file. And I'll show you what's going on. And so this layout that we're in, you could think of this as like an estimate or invoice or some related record. And I select in this field, and right now we'll see that we get this drop-down list. I'm going to type in a name, maybe John, and now it auto-completes, and I see John Doe. I'm going to tab, and it finished putting in John Doe, and you'll notice automatically I get John Doe's ID set up right there. And that is define that relationship. So if we had it in FM Starting Point, I wouldn't have to click on that search, type in John Doe, click on him to get it. I just typed it right in, and it came up. So here, if we type in maybe Henry, and it switched it and updated that ID. Now, to just show you what my demo data looks like, it's all I have here. I have about 600 records, and it's just an ID and a name. I'll go back here and show you one more time because I just think this is cool. We'll do Jacqueline. So there we switched it to Jacqueline. The ID updated and it made data entry really fast. Really easy using the autocomplete. So what's going on here? So first of all, I have autocomplete set up on this field, but not just autocomplete. I also have a dynamic value list. So let's go into layout mode and see what's going on here. So first I've got this dynamic value list, and it's just based on contact full name. So it's looking at this, looking in the database definitions, and it's grabbing this full name and creating the relationship based on that. Now, if I go manage database, you'll see there's only two fields in this table, the ID, the primary key, and the full name. And we're basing it on that full name. Now, the auto enter, the autocomplete isn't really necessary for this to work. Let me go ahead and I'm going to turn autocomplete off. And I'm going to type in some other name. We'll type in John Doe. Now, it's not auto-completing for me, but it worked anyway. But what the autocomplete does for us is it ensures that we type it in correctly or type in a record that can be found. Now, let's see what happens if I type in something that's not in there. So I'm going to type in John Doe second. It tells me contact John Doe second cannot be found. I'll say OK, and it selects everything so I can try typing that in again. So let's go ahead and turn that autocomplete back on. Now, I could have it not based on a drop-down list. I could remove this drop-down list and have it autocomplete, but in that case, it would be based on existing values. So you would have to have the person in there once already. So now when I go to this record and type in John, now it's available. Now, there could be the instance where you have everybody that you might want to put in there already has a record, so you could put it based on existing values. And I think that I like that look more because you don't get the drop-down list right away. But usually I use a filtered value list just to show my active people in something like this. Let's go ahead and put that back on there. We'll say drop-down list, and I remembered my drop-down list and have the autocomplete. So first I've got that dynamic value list based on the context. Contact name, and then I'm using the autocomplete, which helps me type it in fast, type it in the right way. Next, I have a relationship based on the data entry field. So this data entry field right here is called, let's go to view, show sample data. We don't want to see that. Contact. So it's based on contact. And if I go to manage database, we'll see I only have two fields there. I've got my demo, which is, it's supposed to mimic what would be the contact information in invoices, estimates, a schedule, anything that you might want to put it in. So we've got a foreign key and a name. And I have a relationship based on that and the name, the full name. So here I'm calling it demo, and then I have all caps for my contacts and the name search as how we're defining that relationship. I'm going to go ahead and say OK. And through that relationship, we're able to see what's going on. I'm going to take a second. Do we have any questions at this point?
There was one from David Angel. Filling record ID with script trigger? ?
Yes. So that's the next thing that I wanted to show. So here we're clearing that. I'll clear this out and let's put it in somebody else. And so the next thing is that we have a OnObjectSave trigger. And I'll tab over here, save this. So as soon as that field is saved, we've got this trigger that goes off. And I'm saving the contact name that I entered and the ID through that name search relationship. And then if the name's empty, we'll clear it out and exit the script. If the name is in there but nothing's found, then it will give me a warning. And if it passes all of those error captures, then it will take the ID that we found through that relationship and set it, and then exit the script. So you'll notice, though, the Let's show each of these scenarios. So I clear the field and save it. In this case, I've cleared the contact, and there's still an ID information in there. So it clears the ID from the field and then exits. Next, if I put in a name that doesn't exist, it will go through the second error, show me a message, this contact cannot be found. I'll say OK. It clears the contact. It goes to the contact field and selects all, so I can type in something else. And we end with a halt so that I stay in that, the user stays in that field. So let's go ahead and then finally, if we do it correctly, it finds that ID and puts it in there and establishes that relationship. So I can use a go to related record and see this, and demo data is just navigates us back over there. So one thing though I'd like to point out though is that in nowhere would I ever use the relationship based on the name other than to find the ID. Everything would be based on the ID. In fact, if you look at the definition for this contact field, it's a lookup field based on the ID. So I could still have that search with the magnifying glass, still have my search dialog, and it would still work. And the way you can see that working over here is that if I go to, say, John Doe, I have text formatting in that field. You'll see that it's bold here. And that carried over because it's using a lookup to pull the data in there. A minute ago, I typed in, if I type it in this way, so you'll see now it's all lowercase tab. It pulls in the capitalization from the main information that we want to see. So that's really this was something the first time I built this was prior to script triggers that long ago, and so we didn't have the OnObjectExit trigger, and we had it was quite a hack. So using the triggers now that those are available makes it a lot easier to do something real slick like this, where you can establish those relationships. Maybe establish is the better word. Establishing relationships using AutoComplete. I think I like that one. So so using that makes it real quick for people to enter data. Having the AutoComplete and the value list allows us to put that information in quickly without having to type, keeping us from mistyping it, and keeps us from having to jump back and forth between the keyboard and the mouse. Do we have any questions at this point?
Not particularly. A reminder that I'm watching all the channels, y'all. So if you got questions in YouTube or Twitch, I am looking. People are typing, but you should probably feel free to go ahead, Calvin. Oh, wait, hold on. Lookup values will work for that relationship, or is it everywhere in the database?
So the lookup is based on the ID. So you'll see that we've got this secondary relationship called demo contacts based on the ID contact, and you'll see that lookup is based in here, based on that name being pulled by the ID. And so if you use it in that. If you're using this technique, it would work whether you type the name in with that script using that script trigger to establish it, or if you're using a search or something like that. So I think that means it. I think that is. I'm confirming that it would work everywhere in the database. You have to set this up everywhere. If you wanted this to work in invoices and estimates, you would have to build it in both places. John asked, my solution, it has the relationship based on ID. Should I change the relationship to name? No. And what I wanted to point out here is that the relationship is the primary relationship. The most important one is this one right here that's based on the ID. And this secondary relationship based on the name is only referenced to look up the ID, so this relationship will work. So anywhere else where I would reference a relationship, I'd never use the name one. I would only use the ID. So it's kind of a quick search way to find an ID. And so good question.
Okay, we got another one actually. From
Go
Kimmer
ahead.
SNC. Will using a lookup value slow down a database with a lot of records?
Will lookup slow down the database
I will.
with a lot of, I mean, it takes a moment, but the lookup's going to be pretty fast. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about the lookup slowing things down.
Okay. And then Ruben had sort of a follow-up. I don't know if you caught it. So how about people with the same name?
Yeah, so good question. So let's go ahead and look at that script. And so here we're doing all this kind of error trapping to make sure that the person that we're typing in, that the person exists, and there's not a problem. So what would happen sometimes is maybe you do have two people with the same name, and that has come up. So what we would do is we would find out if there were multiple records. And maybe let's go ahead and add this to this demo file. I can send you a new copy. Set variable, and I'm going to call this contact count. And I'll say count, and we'll look through that relationship. And so we're counting how many IDs there are. And if contact count, is greater than 1. So if there's more than one contact, there's a problem. There is more than one, give error. So in that case, I will say show custom dialog. Just grab this one. There is more than one. And we'll go ahead and quote this. And from that point, once you know that there's more than one, maybe you could pop open the search dialog. And I don't have a search feature in this particular file, but you could start that search and say, okay, and limit the search to those two records and say, pick which one's the right one. And maybe based on an email or something, email address or a phone number, you can say, okay, this is the right person. So let's go ahead. We added that here, and I'm going to say exit. Oops, not exit application. Exit script. We'll give it a false. Save that. And let's go ahead and go into find John Doe. Oh, I don't want to delete him. I want to duplicate. And we'll make both of these not bold. Okay, so you'll see that both names are identical, but the ID contact is different for each. Let's go back. And I'm going to go ahead and clear John Doe. So now it's cleared. And now if I say John Doe, let's say there's more than one John Doe. And take me back here, and I can type in another name, or we could start a search process so that we can update that, select the right John Doe. But great question. So in one of the apps that I built a feature like this, what we're doing is we're checking to see if it's scheduling, but people, to be on a schedule, they have to meet certain qualifications. So there's maybe 5 different things I'm checking in that when that name is entered to see, first, does the person exist? Are they active? Do they meet the qualifications to be on the schedule? And if there's an error, it gives them an error. If they meet all the standards, then they get to stay. Any follow-up questions on that?
Yes. Could you just list them with company information or something like that?
Could I list them with company information? But like in the contact name. Uh,
Clarify that, please, Blair. And then while we're waiting for him to oh, multiples.
yeah. So you could change the name so that it had both. You could also put it where you first put in typed in the company name, and then it was a filtered value list based on uh, the the John Doe that you wanted, so you could select the right contact. So there's a few ways to get around it, but yeah, you could put the name in there. Right now we're using a full name, but you could do full name, company, any number of ways to get around that.
Okay, we got another one from Stu. I think this requires the user to start typing it correctly. For example, can it look up The Sopranos when they type in Sopranos?
Yeah, so the user would have to type it in correctly, and it has to match word for word. And that's the reason why we're using the auto complete and the value list, because if it exists in the value list, it'll auto complete, and if and that way we know that that name will be found through that relationship. But if it doesn't, then we could just say maybe we type in John Doe and put an H on it, and we say contact John Doe cannot be found. And instead of just saying this like we're doing right here, we could pop up the search and do a search for them, so they can see what the search results would be for similar things. Any other questions?
Sorry, did you direct something at me, Calvin? Someone
I was asking, do we have any other questions
yes, no,
before we
sorry.
continue?
Follow up. Is there a way to type
Yeah.
Doe and find John Doe?
Yeah. So so what we could do is change it, instead of being first name last name, we could do last name first name, and actually have either way work. And so that would be one of the options to do that. And that's actually a great idea. So, and then have that filter based on both names, or the relationship based on both names, so that either one would work. But yeah, that would be a good way to do it if you wanted to start with the last name. Great.
Yes. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say there is a demo file of today. I did link it. Let me relink it. Give me a second.
Any other follow-up questions?
I mean, people are typing, but I think you might be good to go.
Okay. So since we have some extra time, I thought I would take this copy of FM Starting Point, and we can build it in to maybe estimates here. And so let me go ahead and just kind of walk through how I'm going to do this. First, I want this dynamic value list. Now, unfortunately, I only have one contact. So what I'm going to do is go File, Import. I'm going to import from where's my desktop? I'm going to import from here, and we're going to go from contacts there. We want to import both these fields. Why is it not letting me import? Cancel. Is this a manage security? Is this one of those security problems? Advanced file access. No. File. Import. From here. I'm going to go from this one. Oh, I need to put a target field in. That would do it. How about we just say match names? Oh, and I can't do this one because the full name is a calculation in this one. So let me go ahead and go to Manage Database, if it will let me. And I will just change the name full to an auto-enter text calculation. So this will be we'll try that. Okay, there we go. So we'll import that real quick. It only added 2 records. Let me see why that would be. Let's go ahead and delete these again. Sorry that this import's taking longer. What is going on?
You're good, Cal.
So we're going from here. There should be more than 2 records. Let's go cancel. And let's go to contacts. Maybe I just need to set up the found set as all. Import file. There we go. That's what we want. So I just went ahead and imported that. So now we've got all these records in here. Let's go ahead into estimates. And I will go back over here. And the first thing I'm going to create is that dynamic value list based on all the names. So we'll go to contact. And we'll make it a drop-down list. And we'll say, let's make a new one. I don't think there's a contact name. There might be, but I don't think so. Nope. So let's go to contact. Name, full, dynamic. And that just reminds me that it's a dynamic list instead of a static list. We'll base this on name full. I'll say OK. So there's our value list. And now when we go to browse mode, we'll see everybody's in here. Great. So the next thing I want is my autocomplete. So let's go ahead and just select this and check off the autocomplete. Okay, let's go back over here. And now we need a relationship based on the data entry field. Go to browse mode. And so that was the contact name and estimates. Estimates is 08 here. And so the primary relationship isn't going to change. That's this one right here. I'm going to have the secondary relationship, and I'm only going to use it this one time for doing that search. So I'll say name full, and I'm just going to say search in there so I know what it was for, why I'm using this. Because normally when I see something like a name used in a relationship, I think that's really shouldn't be in there. That's not really a great thing to set a relationship on. I'm going to look for contact email, contact name, and then name full, say change. So now it's based on these two. Say OK. Save that. Now this is B. I'm going to just put for contact A, con B. So those, that way I can find them real fast. Say OK. And so now we've got our dynamic value list. We have autocomplete. We have a relationship. Now we need that trigger. So I'm going to go over here, copy my script, go back over here, and I'm going to be really diligent about putting this in the right spot. I'm going to put this under estimates. I'll put it right here. And we'll even give this a number. Okay. So here, now obviously the demo contact isn't going to work. So what I'm going to do is go down here to my search one and put in the contact name full. Actually, this would be based on the estimates table itself, where we entered. So that would be this field. And we'll save that. And then we're going to look through the relationship that we just set up to grab that ID. And that will be this one right here. And ID contact. There we go. And now we want that count. So this is going to tell us if we've found too many people, which I really like someone pointing that out. That is a really good, that is a problem that definitely would come up. I'll select this one and ID contact. We'll put that in there. Save it. Okay, so what we've done here is just made this based on the variable that we had. That way it wouldn't have broken if when we copied and pasted. And here we want this to be based on the number is estimates. I'm going to just disable this for now. Say set, I think it was TO8, and then ID contact. So we want it to clear the contact if the ID is not found, or if it's empty. And let's just look at what table, table occurrence we're on. We're on 8. So here, if, let's go TO8 estimates, and that's our foreign key. I think it's just called ID contact in this table. There we go. So we're just checking that. And again, we're going to say quote. We're just going to put this as base it on the variable we already set. And we'll say go to field and TO8. And that would be the contact name field. And then finally, we want to set that TO8 and the ID contact field here. So there we set it up. And is there anything else that we need here? We need to update the lookup is already working. And now we just need to apply that OnObjectSave trigger. So let's right click the contact name, set up the trigger. We'll say OnObjectSave. I'm just going to type in OnObjectSave. And there's our script that we did. And let's go ahead and try it. This is the moment of truth. Let me clear that out. We'll say John Doe. There's more than one John Doe. Oh no. Let's do somebody else. Let's try Abel Bilberry could not be found. Okay, so that's interesting. So let's go ahead and try one more. And I'm just going to try this one. It couldn't be found. Okay. So let's go ahead and see why some of those names are not showing up. So we're seeing them in this value list, so I feel like they should be there. Let's try Ryan. There's more than one Ryan Alvarez Smith. Let's go ahead and just look at our relationship. Just make sure that that's looking at the right thing. I think it was TO8. So the name's name full, okay. And let's go ahead and open this with a script debugger and try it one more time. So we'll just put in one person. So here we're saving the contact name that we typed in. We're saving a contact ID. And here's the problem. If you look at this, we are referencing the wrong relationship in the script. So I pointed it to, not to the search one, but to the contact name. Let's see if that fixes it. Let's see, there's another bar in there. Try that. Okay. So let's try this. Abigail, or we'll do Bailey Lukes. Okay. So now we saw there, our contact button became active, which means that there's a relationship. And let's see if that takes us to Bailey. And there's the name Bailey right there. And our relationship takes us back. So we set that up, and we got that auto enter working. Now, one thing that we said, what if the person, there's more than one person, or what if the person can't be found? let's go ahead and take the scenario of there's more than one. And instead of just stopping there, let's go ahead and make it perform a search. And so this is 0353. Let me just grab the script parameter. The script is 0353. Perform script 0353, script parameter. And let's give them the option. Say, specify here, maybe say, would you like to search for the contact? And we'll say, okay. We'll just change this to a yes or a no. Okay. And so now, when we type in John Doe, let's go ahead and find John Doe real quick over here. There's no John Doe in here. Oh, let's do this. John Doe. Here's our two John Does. John Doe. And we're going to give this guy, say this guy works at ABC Company. And John Doe works at XYZ Company. So two different companies, two different John Does, same name. We'll go back over here and we're going to clear out this and try this again. John, actually, what we want to do here, we got to do a if get last message choice equals 1, then we will perform the script. Okay, let's try that. So John Doe, there's more than one John Doe. Would you like to search for the contact? I'll say yes. And here's my search. I can type in John Doe, and there's the two John Does, and I wanted the XYZ Company John Doe. And there's our relationship right there. And there we're seeing the right John Doe was assigned to the right, the right John Doe was selected, and the estimate was assigned to the right company and person. So that's a quick demo of how we can use this technique for quick data entry if we want to avoid search using a picker window and getting a quick entry from the keyboard.
Which is really awesome. We do have two questions. I'm going to fling those at you before we call it for today.
Sure.
I'm going to grab the first one, which is kind of related back to like the named conversation we were having earlier. What about if you index the field?
The field must be indexed for this to work. So if the field's not indexed, it won't work.
Okay, and then a follow-up to the index thing. Thinking back on indexing, we would need to look up typed values in a list of indexes, but we would only want the list to show the actual names. Would you use a two-value list to do this? If so, which field would go on the left and the right? Bit of a long one that is in Discord from Stu.
Yeah, can you say that one more time?
Yes. Thinking back on indexing, we would need to look up typed value in a list of indexes, but we would only want the list to show the actual names. Would you use a two-value list to do this? If so, which field would go on the left and right?
Yes. So I think what you're getting at is the idea of, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm going to say name or contact ID dynamic, and that's the idea of having two different, having one field in the value list and a secondary field displayed. So if I do, we'll use this a lot when we want to assign something by an ID, but we don't want to look at the IDs. We just want to look at the names, and so we say show only values from second field, but it's actually based on the ID. And so in this case, I'll go ahead and save that. And let me just make sure This is assigned to, yeah, this is assigned to contact ID. Now, when I do this, it's not going to work because as much as I see these names, the autocomplete won't work. I'm not sure if the autocomplete will work. So let's try it. It shouldn't. Yeah, so the autocomplete won't work, but if I type in, and if we select some name from here, like Abel, you'll see instead of putting the name in, it puts the ID. And it thinks that that ID is the name that we're searching, which wouldn't make work or make sense. So so you wouldn't use two fields. You would just use the one that you're wanting to base that search on. And that's really the key part of this. We're not using this value list to define the relationship. If we're doing the ID and name, we would use it to define the relationship. In this case, we're just using it to do a search. So I'll set to contact name full and switch this back to name full and only one field to display. Does that answer your question?
Stu, I'm waiting for Stu to finish replying. Rick Fosnot wants me to tell you that he really likes this idea and it's much easier than the picker. So.
Yeah. None of the techniques that we're using, none of the things, individual features or techniques that we're using in this are complicated, but it's them all coming together. It's a little bit different way of thinking about data entry, and I really like it. A lot of people have enjoyed using it, and as long as you don't have a lot of duplicate names, then it works pretty well. Any other questions?
Stu said he's still confused.
Okay.
And that someone else Kyle suggested was to use a separate field to look up.
A separate field to look up? Well, the reason why we're using the same field and using that as a lookup is so that the data stays current. So if you have a relookup, it's gonna refresh that. And so if I go to John Doe, let's do John Doe, and say there's more than one John Doe, I'm going to go to ABC Company John Doe. And let's go ahead and go back over here. And maybe his name's now, he's going by Jack now. If I go over here, now it still says Jack, it still says John Doe. But this is the lookup, so if I do a relookup, so I'm going to go ahead and add the contact ID contact onto the layout just for demonstration purposes. If I go here and go to relookup, I'll say, okay, now it's Jack Doe. So that the reason why we keep the lookup is so that data carries over any formatting that we want to keep, and also so that it stays current in case we make any changes to the primary record. Oh, I see what Kyle's saying. A separate field to use as an index for the name you're searching for. I think that came up, or we were talking about it with you could do that. So here, let's go ahead and call this one contact name search. And somebody suggested that we do last name, first name. So I'm going to make sure, so this is going to be an actual calculation. Okay. And we're going to say list name, contact name, I think it was called name full, wasn't it? Name full, and then name last, and I'm going to put a space in here, and put in name first. So here it's going to do a name full and then search by both. So I will change this to a text, say OK. And now that relationship needs to be updated over here. So then our search is based on the contact. What did I call that? Just going to go creation order and go back over here to the bottom of my list. Contact name search, I'll say change. And so now when I do that search, I can type in Doe, comma, John, and it worked. But the lookup was based on the first name, last name, so it refreshed it. It set up that relationship, and if you didn't notice that, I was able to type in Joe, John, and even though it wasn't the same as the lookup, it still was able to establish that relationship. And now that one John is now Jack, it still worked. Now, if I change that value list, so let's go to File, Manage Value Lists, and go to, what was that, Contact, Name Full. And instead of being based on the name full, we're going to base it on that name search. So now it's going to be a list of both last names and first names. First name, last names, and last name, first name. So now when I type in Doe John or Doe Jack, that's an option for autocomplete, and it works. So that's how we can do a different index for those different having calculation fields to search different ways to establish that relationship. Any follow-up questions?
Nope, doesn't look like it. I think we're good, Calvin. Thank you so much. This was very cool. Glad to see you all asking questions and interacting, and we will catch you tomorrow with more Calvin.
Okay, I'll go ahead and send you a copy of these files so you can resend that download link.
Yes, I will update stuff. So, okay. In that case, I'm going to play closing. Bye, everyone.
Good to see everyone. Have a good day.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!